CEC members come and we reach quorum, if we have to make any decisions or any vote, it's important that we have quorum, so we will do another roll call when more members come. But let's start with the roll call from Carly and the excused absences for this evening.
Joseph Benedetto.
Present.
Wing Yu. Present. Anne Marie Table.
Present.
Joseph Cho.
Present.
Sung Young Lee, we're waiting on her. Leon M is absent. Rushing Krishnaraj has an excused absence. Michelle Frederick. Present. And Catherine Pack.
So we don't have a quorum of 6 members present this evening, so we are not able to vote on the approval of our minutes from August and September, where we did not have a quorum. I'll just report to the public that we did have a special meeting on 2 weeks ago, a week ago? 2 weeks ago, where the Community Education Council met and decided that we would continue to meet in person with the option for the public to join us remotely. So it's a kind of hybrid situation. However, we voted that the CEC members have to either appear in person or they will not, their presence will not count towards quorum, or they will not be able to vote remotely at this time. We will continue to do so until get any further motions to change the status of the way we meet. So for the time being, this is what we have, and we appreciate everyone's efforts and always grateful for the CEC members' contribution. We're all volunteers here, so I understand and thank everyone for their commitment to the Community Education Council. So in as much as we won't be able to approve the minutes, I just want to speak briefly about what will be happening this evening. We are going to talk about the need for seats, for school seats in our district. I have Ms. Jai Green from District Planning who will present to the community. I understand School Construction Authority is here. They will also have a brief presentation of some of the projects that are happening in our district. I also have one of our principals from one of our schools, Deborah Cassidy from PS 24. Hello, Deborah, who's also going to be here remotely to discuss what happened at her school when school construction renovated her project and the benefits of having a new school there. Then I will also entertain any questions. We'll have some public speaking time, and that will be the gist of our agenda, and then we'll go on to new matters. We just, Shirley, welcome to join, welcome.
Sorry.
It's okay. So Carly, Shirley is now here. We do have a quorum, so why don't we then go back and read the minutes and vote on approval of the minutes from last month. I do have a microphone here for the public. I don't know if any CEC members, there's another microphone on the table. So if you want to speak, maybe so the public can hear you, you may want to use that microphone. That one doesn't have a cord. The one I do has, and we just my trip. So just let me know if you want to speak, and then I will make sure you get the microphone. Oh, do you have August minutes here?
Should be August and September.
Oh, I see August. Are there any motions to approve? When are you making the motion to approve August minutes?
Yes, I'm making a motion to approve August 4th minutes.
And Mr. Chow, you second the motion? So the minutes for our August meeting are hereby approved. Now, we did not have a quorum present at September, so I don't think we're able to vote on the approval of these minutes because no quorum was present, correct? I think they just stand, there was no vote decided, so we're gonna let that sit at the time. I do want the public to know that we do have vacancies on our CEC. If there's anyone who's interested in joining the Community Education Council, please contact our office or contact your school. You are more than welcome to join us. The way it works is you submit your application and then you'll come before our CEC and we'll vote on your approval. CEC usually has 11 members. We have 6 that are present here this evening. 2 of our members are usually appointed by the borough president, but we have not received the appointments as of yet. We have 2 vacancies for members that have not appeared in the past, so we're looking to fill 4 positions, 2 from the public and 2 from the borough appointees. So we hope that you are interested. We welcome you, and we would love to have you join us. So before I get started with our agenda and our first presentation, I want to introduce to you our Superintendent Danielle Domingo for her superintendent's report.
So if you don't mind, Joe, I would defer mine to last. And I'll let Jai
No,
go.
that's fine, okay.
So we'll let, Jai.
I have no problem with that. Jai's here?
Jai's here.
Okay, so we're gonna start with our agenda for the evening, and the first presentation comes from District Planning. And Jai, if you introduce yourself, and you should be able to communicate, correct?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Superintendent Domingo. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you all by Zoom and present to you. My name is Cy Green. I'm the Director of Queens Planning at the Office of District Planning. I'm here with my colleague, Caitlin. Caitlin, do you want to say hello? Actually, I think Caitlin might be muted. So I will introduce her. Anyway, Caitlin Whittemore is here with me. She is the planning coordinator for the Queens team. And we are here to talk about district data needs. We do this every year. We work very closely with the CEC and with the superintendent. Every year we look at the data and we analyze what we see as needs in the district. We talk to the superintendent about that. We talk to our partner offices. And then really importantly, we come and talk to you, to the CEC and to you all as community members. So thank you for your participation in this. I'm going to just go through a quick PowerPoint deck about our office. I know the CEC, I believe there's some new members, some returning members, and I know there's a lot of members of the public here. So I do want to go through what our office does and how we work together with you all. And then I will go into the data. I know you have a busy agenda, so I will try to be efficient. Joe, I will take your lead on whether we should take questions all at the end or throughout, but I will leave some time for questions. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Hang on. Okay, can you see this PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good. Let me start the slideshow. Hang on. Okay. So as I said, we are the Office of District Planning. Sorry, I moved things around on my screen. So we did introductions. I want to talk first about what our office does. Then we will show the district data summary. I think that is what you're all here for. That will show all the data we have in the district. And then want to open it up to questions and discussion of the district needs and opportunities. Spoiler alert: we will share heavily about the overcrowding in District 25 and the need for additional seats. I don't think that will surprise anyone who lives in the district. So district planning is an office that has 4 goals, all in service of the Chancellor's vision of equity and excellence for all. We first partner with and empower communities through the district planning process. That is what we are here to do today. This is one example of that. If we do any of our proposals or planning for new schools or rezonings, it is really, really crucial that we talk to the community, to the CEC, to the parents, to the affected schools. But at the moment, we are just here to share our data, and we want to talk to you, the community, about it. We increase access to quality programs in schools, particularly in underserved areas. So we work with the superintendent and then with you all to make sure that the schools have the kind of programs they need. For example, District 75 programs, ASD NEST programs, bilingual programs, whatever we hear that and we can see that your district needs. We do look at demographic data to increase diversity and integration across all our schools. We will show some of that data later. We can talk about ways to do that. And then finally, we improve learning conditions for students and increase access to appropriate facilities. So we do this in a number of ways. A few concrete ways are we look to remove any TCUs, what you might know as trailers. And we really want to maximize space for our students in your schools. Meaning we like to look at schools that are overcrowded and then schools that are underutilized and do something about that. So you will see later in the presentation what we can do. So we have what we call levers that we can use, our office can use to address all the 4 priorities I said before. We can do rezonings if that happens if there are potentially new schools or reasons to rezone existing schools, and also unzone. We can unzone schools if that's appropriate. For those 2, the CEC is the voting body, so we would work very closely with the CEC, and they would be the ones to vote on any rezonings. Not saying that's going to happen in this district, just talking about what our office does. We also do things that we call major changes in school utilization. So we may merge schools, we may, in conjunction with the School Construction Authority, build and then open new schools. We could potentially do grade level changes, which means, some schools in the city are K through 8s, and sometimes it makes more sense to truncate them to be a K through 5 or a 6 through 8. Or conversely, there's some schools in the city that are, like K to 2 or K to 3, and it often makes sense to expand them to be a full elementary grade band of K to 5. We do school recitings. This happens in a variety of situations, sometimes, and not in this district recently, but sometimes a school construction authority will remove TCUs in order to build an addition to a school. And often if there are children in those TCUs, we'll have to recite them temporarily somewhere to allow the SCA to build that addition. Or there was a case in District 27, for example, where a school was getting a replacement building after damage from Hurricane Sandy. So we recited that whole school for a few years, and then they'll build a new building and they'll be recited back. District 25 is a little bit trickier, as we'll talk about, because there's not a lot of wiggle room or space for new capacity. We do work closely with the superintendent and in our various partner offices about new programs. So as I said, we can add bilingual programs, we can add special ed programs if needed. And then we do enrollment planning. We work very closely with the Office of Student Enrollment to make sure that the schools are admitting the correct number of sections that will fit in their spaces. This is not beautifully graphically designed graphic because we're not graphic designers, but it does give the idea of what we do. So everything is the big circle is community empowerment, right? We want to do all these proposals in conjunction with the community. So, and it's kind of a never ending cycle. So we look at our data, we might come up with scenarios and proposals. We will then, we will do a needs and opportunities assessment, like, okay, what does this district need? Does it need more seats? Does it need a special ed program? Does it need a reciting? We will then come and talk to stakeholders that, of course, includes the superintendent, the school communities and the CEC, and then the broader District 25 community. But again, we want to do this really in conjunction with the community. The slide just gives a little bit more color on what I mean when I say community empowerment. We really want to hear all voices, not just certain voices. We want to provide real transparent and accessible information, right? Because you can't really have community engagement unless people know the actual facts on the ground. And we really want to do this in a meaningful way. So this is the first step in that. We are happy to come back anytime if you want us to discuss any of this further. And finally, I'm going to leave up just for a second the guiding questions that our office looks at when we look at the data, and invite you to look at it, to think about these questions too as you look at the data we're about to present. I'm just going to leave it up for a second. I'm not going to read it out because it's a lot of text. And we can put this up again at the end. And I think, yes. I'm not going to do this appendix. I want to get into the good stuff, which is the data. Okay, so hang on. I have to share my screen again and pull up the right. Apologies, my other colleague, Reba, usually shares the screen. So she's better at it. Okay, can you see this? Sorry, not at the beginning. Can you see this data? Scrolling.
Yes, it looks good.
Okay, here we are. So this is the District 25 data summary. We have sent this to the CEC. CEC, you're of course welcome to share it with the public. I don't know if you post things on your website or email them out to mailing list or whatever, but obviously, please do feel free to share this data with anyone who would like it. So first, we have a very long table of contents that does just orient what's in this data summary. I'm just going to scroll through it because we are going to go through this in decent amount of detail. So first, our office looked at citywide trends for enrollment and population. So actually, New York City's population declined in 2020. There's numerous reasons. I assume the COVID-19 pandemic was one of those reasons. And therefore, the public school enrollment experienced a parallel dip, right? I don't think anyone is quite sure what's going to happen in the future. I think there's definitely a hope that everything will rebound. So we are, we're going to watch and see what happens and plan accordingly. But we'll, again, planning in conjunction with the communities. So this is just citywide enrollment trends. As you can see, it has dipped over the last 5 years. Again, even actually pre-COVID, it was dipping, but COVID exacerbated that. But that's citywide. This is citywide District 75 enrollment. So District 75, as I think probably some of you know, is a special needs district. It is not a geographic district. It is a district where the most special ed students with the most needs are placed in District 75 programs. So conversely, District 75 enrollment has actually increased over the past 5 years citywide. So this district planning process is the process we go through if we were to do legal proposals, meaning proposals governed either by Chancellor's Regulation A185, which is rezonings, or Chancellor's Regulation A190, which are, as I mentioned, those major changes in school utilization. We actually have not done any of those in District 25 in a number of years, so there are no changes listed. So I want to get right into the data. So we are looking at enrollment trends. I think everyone is looking at enrollment trends. I think that's a hot topic now. So this chart shows enrollment in District 25 for the last 5 years. So it shows the year by year numbers and then the 5-year change. And you can see overall D25 has remained relatively stable, right? There was a 4% decline from 2019 to 2019-2020 school year to the 2020-2021 school year. But likely due to COVID or exacerbated by COVID, we're going to just watch and see. I will say that elementary school enrollment has decreased about 5% in the last 5 years, while middle school enrollment has actually increased. That is probably just due to some elementary school kids aging up and that just the population trends in the district. District and charter enrollment, we like to look at that. Actually, in District 25, it's not a big deal at all. There's very, very little charter activity in District 25. I think your schools are very well regarded, well attended. Most students do go to the district schools in the district, but that is not the same in other districts. So this just shows the breakdown for elementary district charter and then middle school district and charter. And there's actually, there's no middle school charters, and again, charter schools in D25 is not a big thing. We do like to look at school size. There is a sense that if a school is too small, that enrollment is not sustainable. There are budget reasons for that. There, I think, are educational reasons for that. You want a school to be robustly enrolled, so we do look at that. There are actually, this is something we're not concerned with in District 25. We are in some other districts. Finally, the next few slides are going to really drive home what I said, that District 25 schools are popular. These next few graphs talk about the number of District 25 residents that go to District 25 schools, and then the number of students enrolled in District 25, how many of them come from District 25, how many of them come from elsewhere. And really, they all show that like the vast majority of District 25 students attend District 25 schools, and the vast majority of District 25 schools, a very, very high percentage is made up of students who live in District 25. This goes into a little bit of detail, but these slides are all showing that same thing. Meaning District 25 has very, very good retention. People who live in District 25 want to go to those schools. So, for example, in elementary school, 95% of the students who attend a District 25 school, live in District 25. You'll see a few percentage points of students come from neighboring districts. The parts of District 25 are right on the border of District 26. Same with District 28 and 29. Same with the middle school. So the vast majority of middle school students who live in District 25 schools live in District 25. This is kind of the flip side of that. These charts, that's what I was talking about before. District 25 has very, very high retention rates. Well, at least at the elementary and middle school level, right? So students who live in District 25 stay in District 25. This is a bit different at the high school level. Only 36% of District 25 high school students choose to stay in District 25, but that is by design of the high school process. High school is a citywide enrollment choice. I think a lot of District 25 students go all over the city to very, very good high schools or high schools of their choice. We really like to look at district retention for elementary and middle schools, and that is excellent in this district. Only 1% of District 25 residents choose to attend a charter school for either elementary or middle school, meaning 99% of them stay in district schools. This is a little bit more of the same. So 96% of elementary school students who live in District 25 attend a District 25 school. This will show you 1% go to District 26 schools, 1% go to 30, 1% go to 24, and like a fraction of a percent go to District 28 schools. Same kind of data in middle school. Again, it's like a lot of very granular data showing that D25 students stay in the district. Okay, now I'm going to talk about something we are a bit concerned about with District 25. The retention was all good news. This is not bad news, but it's something I want to talk to you a little bit more seriously about, which is seat demand. So our office, a really important thing we do is look at seat capacity, meaning we want to make sure there's enough seats for all the students in your district. I will say all the students in your district who want a seat in the district get a seat in the district. The question is how creative we have to be in placing them. So we look at something called elementary school seat need. So you can see these lines. This kind of light blue line is the enrollment over the last few years. This shaded blue area is our projected enrollment. The projections they're a range. They're always a range. Our range here is a little bigger because we are trying to assess the effects of COVID. So we want to make sure we capture the high and low end of the range. So that shaded area is a range. And then this red line is the amount of capacity that is currently in District 25. And by capacity, for every school building, the School Construction Authority calculates a capacity, a number of students that are supposed to fit in the building. That does not mean that's all the students that are actually in the building or that can fit in the building comfortably. Principals are very, very good at programming buildings to have more students in these buildings. And also the SCA Blue Book, so the capacity number does not take into account UFT contractual limits. So meaning the UFT contractual limits are higher than the number of students that the SCA calculates for a school building. So bottom line is all the kids in District 25 who want a seat have a seat, even though the capacity is not quite there, but we're not in the ideal world of having sufficient capacity for District 25 students. And you can see, anyway, this shaded line, goes above the red line for elementary school. Middle school is actually a bit better. The middle school capacity basically just meets the middle school enrollment trends. So we're better on middle school, but you can see it's close. Again, we are monitoring the effects of COVID on enrollment. Anecdotally, it does seem like kids are coming back. So another very important and related concept we look at is school and building utilization in the district. So concept-wise, so we take the Blue Book number and then we calculate the number of students that are actually in a building. So if the Blue Book says 100 students can be in a building and 100 students are in that building, we're at 100% utilization. If 200 students are in a building meant for 100 students, we're at 200% utilization. Once again, the Blue Book is kind of an ideal world in that it uses pretty small class sizes and the numbers do lag a year. So the Blue Book is depending on the time of year, either the capacity is either a year or two old. So utilization is a figure we should seriously look at, but it is a bit of a rough figure. If and when we become really concerned, we actually do a walkthrough of the building and get actual numbers. But this is a good place to start. So there are 45 buildings in District 25. There's a lot more in Queens, but let's focus on 25. Of them, 3 are what we call underutilized, and I'll talk about that. But that means that that utilization percentage is less than 100. But you'll see here that 29 are overutilized. There are also some TCUs in the district, which I'll talk about later. TCUs we're not that concerned about. We have a plan to remove them all, or they are being removed. We are slightly more concerned with the overutilization. So, what do we do about that? We work very collaboratively with the superintendent, with you all, and with the School Construction Authority, who is here today, to try to create plans to alleviate that overcrowding. So these are the underutilized buildings. 2 of them we're actually not concerned about any of these, and I'll tell you why. Q129 just got an addition, and so they're growing into their space. Even though they're slightly underutilized, they don't have that much excess space. They have like a few extra rooms. They probably have, we'll see, 5 to 10 extra rooms, which for such a big school is really not a big deal. Q336, this building up here, it looks like you can see some excess, but they're a new school. They are growing into they're still growing to scale. Not worried about that either. Q129 has a few excess seats, really not a big deal. So underutilization in District 25 is not really a problem. We do have a decent amount of buildings with overutilization. So this is a list of them. And once again, you'll see some big numbers here, but principals do program well. They can go up to UFT contractual max size. They're creative with their programming. Every child in the district has a seat in the district, but I think in a more ideal world, we would have more seats and we would bring some of these numbers down. So, what do we do about that? Again, we work with the SCA, the superintendent, the CEC, and we, leverage this existing capacity to make sure all the students have a seat. Also, we are getting a few additions in this district. SCA has been building additions to add capacity. So you'll see here, I'll show you, PS 32 and PS 169 are actually getting 2 nice additions. They will open in a couple of years, and both of them will open in September 2024, and Q129 just got an addition. So this is going to definitely help the overutilization. We also then work with the SCA. There are capital plan funded seats, meaning there is money in the budget to build seats in these neighborhoods, in these, we call them sub-districts. So there in the February 2021 capital plan, there was about almost 2,600 funded seats in Beechurst, College Point, and Whitestone. Of those, about 1,000 are in progress. That leaves about 1,500. Sorry about that. One sec. Apologies, my other computer went a little rogue. Sorry, as I was saying, there's about 1,500 seats still left to be funded in that Beechurst, College Point, Whitestone area. And then in the next area, the Flushing, Murray Hill, Willits Point area, there's 3,000 funded seats that are not yet in process. And the SCA is looking for sites to build schools there. As you can see from that chart above, there's a decent amount of overutilization in this district, overcrowding. That new capacity will help when and if it's built, will help all that. Our office also looks at TCUs, those transportable classroom units, or what some people call trailer classrooms. It is a mayoral priority to remove them across the city. In this district, all the elementary school TCUs are in process of being removed. In fact, the 32s have already been removed. The only ones remaining in this district are at John Bone High School. Those are a little bit special. They're a little bit more, they're still TCUs and ideally we'd remove them, but they have a lot of special programming in them and that's a bit harder to deal with. But at least elementary school wise, all the TCUs are being removed. And we also look at District 75 need. As I mentioned before, District 75 students are our most vulnerable students with the most need for special ed services. We as a DOE, I think you all as parents, everyone wants to minimize distance to schools, right? So we try to create District 75 programs in the geographic district in which the student lives. So you can see here, borough-wide, we actually have enough District 75 seats at the elementary, middle, and high school level, but not in this district. So what it means is there are District 75 students who live in District 25 that have to travel outside of District 25 to go to their schools. So there's about 101 seat deficit in at the elementary school level in District 25. There is luckily not a middle school seat deficit, and then there's a high school seat deficit of 149. high school is a little bit better because those kids are older, they can travel. Elementary school, it would be very helpful to be able to open a District 75 program in District 25, would, for the reasons I stated before. This just shows the District 75 enrollment over the last few years. You can see it, especially at the elementary school level, it is going up, and a bit more at the high school, middle school, also at the high school and middle school level, but a little bit more stable. Finally, our office looks very carefully at demographics and student population. Again, in the service of integrating the district and making sure that the students are served well, we do look at a number of demographics. The first is we look at race and ethnicity. Again, this is not a perfect measure because I know the racial categories we use are a bit broad, but this is what we have and collect. So in District 25, so the left column is District 25, the middle column is Queens as a borough, and then the last column on the right is citywide, so you can compare. But so you can see this red band, 27% of students in District 25 identify as Hispanic. Only 4% identify as Black, 57% identify as Asian, and then 11% as white, and then 2% are other. You can see that compared to the Queens and citywide averages. So overall, more students identifying as Asian live in District 25 as compared to the rest of the city. And smaller populations of students identifying as Hispanic or Black live in District 25 compared to the rest of the city. And it looks like the percentage of students identifying as white is pretty comparable to Queens as a whole, slightly less than the city as a whole. This is middle school. You can see the same charts here. So District 25, 28% of students identify as Hispanic, 5% as Black, 54% identify as Asian, and then 13% as white, again with 1% other. And then it's a little bit different in high school. High school, I think it gets a little bit changed around because it is citywide enrollment, so it's students who travel outside of their district all across the city. But at the high school level, 43% of students identify as Hispanic, 13% as Black, 32% as Asian, and 9% as white. We then break, we then show this chart, which is every elementary school in the district. We show the racial breakdown in a pretty visually easy to read way. Again, it's the same color codes. And you can, if you just flip through it, you can see really that there are a decent amount of schools that serve one racial majority, right? These students are not spread evenly across all the schools. I'll leave it up for a second, but I think the CEC hopefully will send this out, and then if anyone is interested, they can look a little bit more carefully. It's a lot of information. We have the same kind of breakdown at the middle school level. Again, a lot of information, but visually you can see. We also, and this is new this year, our analytics team has created what they call an index of economic disparity. So if the number increases, that means essentially the schools have more of a chance of serving, of a school serving a large amount of students in poverty, and then another school serving fewer students in poverty. So essentially, we like to see a higher number, which means that the students in poverty are kind of more evenly spread out. So here, there is a downward trend in District 25, which is what we like to see, that the economically advantaged and disadvantaged students are spread out a little bit more evenly across the schools than they used to be. We look at some other demographic data. We look at students with disabilities, English language learners, and then students who are economically disadvantaged. So students with disabilities, you can see here the District 25, Queens and Citywide average. District 25 has about 16% of students with IEPs, individualized education programs. That's pretty comparable to Queens as a whole, and a slightly smaller percentage than the city as a whole. Same kind of numbers with the economically disadvantaged students. D25 has 69% of students who are economically disadvantaged based on who would qualify for free and reduced price lunch. And I know now everyone gets free lunch, but based on the income levels or who receives human resource administration benefits. Those, again, pretty comparable to Queens as a whole, slightly lower than the city as a whole. ELLs, English language learners, is slightly different, right? District 25 has 24% of their students are ELLs, which is actually higher than Queens as a whole or the city. We also then look at the number of students in temporary housing. So in District 25, there's about 1,647 students in temporary housing across all grades K through 12. We also like to look at which schools serve more than 10% of students, where 10% of the student population lives in temporary housing, just to make sure those schools get all the support they need. There are 3 elementary schools in 25 where 10% of the students live in temporary housing. So that's PS 21, PS 24, and PS 107. And you can see in PS 21, 17% of their students live in temporary housing. PS 24 has 11%, and PS 107 has 10%. And then, as I said at the beginning, we do like to look at the school types and if there's appropriate programs in District 25, dual language programs, ASD Nest programs. You can see here. This is a count of the schools. So in District 25, there's 2 early childhood centers, there's 20 elementary schools, 4 K-8s, 8 middle schools, 3 6-12 secondary schools. There's actually 0 K-12 schools. I think there's only 1 or 2 in the city. We have 7 high schools, 2 transfer high schools, a couple pre-K centers, and a YABC program. Special programs is what I was talking about. We want to make sure there's enough programs for special ed students. So Horizon and Nest are 2 kinds of special ed programs that are placed in district schools. District 25 does have 5 schools with G&T programs, gifted and talented programs, and 16 schools with bilingual programs. And finally, here is a map of the district, which we refer to often. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I think I'll turn it over to back to the CEC to facilitate questions. Does that sound okay? I'm just going to look at the chat.
Asking questions now, or would you be okay if I let SCA go on and some discussion from one of our principals? Are you okay? I mean, I don't want to.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
You. So I just want the CEC to understand and the public to understand that from what Jai is telling us, we have about 34 buildings in our district, elementary and middle schools. 29 of those buildings are over capacity, from 103% to 221%. That's a huge number. And from what I understand, there are about 3,056 seats needed in Beechhurst, Whitestone, College Point, and Flushing. And then across the district, we need about 4,617 seats. And then add another 101 District 75 seats. I'm looking at, at least 4,700 seats that we need in our district. So to me, that's a big number. And I don't think, we don't realize this sometimes because the schools do a great job in how they pack the students in on their programs, but it is a serious problem in our district. So I just want you to understand that. If the public has any comments, I want SCA. SCA is here, right, Carly?
Yes.
I think we have Ben Goodman here from SCA, correct? So Mr. Goodman is going to touch base on one or two of our projects in our district. We don't have much space. There is a Water's Edge project that we discussed, and it was brought before the community board a couple of months back. Jai will talk about that. I know PS 169 is involved in expansion, and I'm hoping that Jai can speak a little bit about that. And then we'll talk to one of our principals, and then we'll take your questions and or comments. Is that okay, CEC members? Are you all right with that? Okay, great. So if Mr. Goodman is here, we gave you the opportunity to share the screen. I see you there. Welcome, Mr. Goodman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benedetto. I'm Ben Goodman from the School Construction Authority. Thank you very much, CEC 25, for having us here this evening. I'm also joined by my colleague Zishan Ott, the Director of External Affairs for the SCA. So really briefly, I'd like to just discuss kind of what's going on now with the 169 building. So the SCA is in construction for a new addition. That is anticipated to open in September of 2024, bringing 643 needed seats across the two organizations that are in the building currently. And I'd like to just point out that, as part of our work to bring new seats online, in addition to regular classrooms and classrooms for our pre-K and kindergarten students, we also do build other amenities for our students, such as art rooms, science resource rooms, and music classrooms, all of which will be included within the new addition for 169. I just also like to point out that we're also including guidance suites and a new library. So it's important to, in addition to the severe overcrowding across District 25 that was mentioned by our colleague Jai earlier, in particular this current sub-district where the SCA has identified a parcel for new school construction. It's also important to just note that there's additional aspects of educational facility that the SCA brings to the table when building new capacity. So I'm going to just share my screen so we can take a look at the new school that we have proposed for the Water's Edge site and Water's Edge and 24th Avenue. Okay, so this is the proposed site that we're looking at. It's about 44,000 square feet. And the image here on the image on the right is an aerial view of the project site. It's currently vacant land. And before we get into a couple other slides just showing what the actual site looks like today, I'd just like to walk everybody through the process and where things stand. So the SCA has not built a new school within this portion of City Council District 19 over the past 33 years at the very least. As was mentioned before by Jai and our CEC president, there's about 1,500 seats that are needed in this particular sub-district. So including the various additions we have and some other sites that we have leased for our students, including former parochial schools, the project is necessary to alleviate space needs, and that additional capacity that the project will have will do that for District 25. So in terms of the process, we're in a very early stage. We're committed to ongoing engagement with the CEC and our other stakeholders as we continue along. So it's this particular project where we are looking at right now on the corner of 24th Avenue and Water's Edge. It's about 572 elementary school seats, encompassing 44,000 square feet. And as of now, we anticipate that the building will be 5 stories, and there will likely be fencing dividing the school from the adjacent apartment building. So we do anticipate an at-grade play yard as part of the project. And we do want to make note, so everyone is aware, at the community's request, we are committed to studying, potentially making Water's Edge Drive a one-way street, as well as doing an evaluation to see if it's possible to include a driveway turnaround at the school site as part of our design process. But so folks are aware, if the turnaround is found to be feasible, it's important to recognize that this might sacrifice the play yard at the school. But we have already begun to work with our colleagues at the Department of Transportation on the traffic planning needs. And we'll also continue that engagement throughout the project, and as well as our engagement with our colleagues at the CEC and other stakeholders and other members of the community. So this view on the left is the view of the site looking northwest from the corner of Water's Edge Drive and 24th Avenue. And that's how the site currently stands. Additional view on the right is of the project site looking northwest through the chain link fencing that's currently there along 24th Avenue. And this is a view of the site facing east from within the grounds of the neighboring Bay Country Co-op.
Oh, ask them.
Mr. Goodman, I'm sorry. Are you okay to stick around for our next presentation? And if there's any questions, we'll take them at that time, or are you pressed for time?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you. Okay, so now that you understand, School Construction Authority is talking about this new building that is proposed in the Water's Edge district, part of the district, which is not too far from PS 169. I want you to understand that. And there's a little bit of community pushback on that because they're saying that, it's not needed. But, there's not much space in our district. So we really can't be picky of where schools go, right? But, it's a project. It's not fully 100% decided on. And if you have any questions, I can have you direct them to Mr. Goodman after I put on one of our wonderful principals from PS 24, Deborah Cassidy, who is here and is going to speak about the project that happened in her school and the benefits of the improved school that it brought to her students and her school. Deborah Cassidy, are you here?
Yes, excuse me. Yes, I'm here. Just
Ms. Cassidy, you have to unmute yourself.
yes. Can you? I was unmuted. I think someone muted me again. Sorry. We're just trying to share my screen. Just give me a second. Okay. So let's see. We go over here. Here we go. Okay. You can see my screen right now. I'm just going to put it in present mode. Hold on for a second. Okay. Here we go. All right. So good evening. My name is Deborah Cassidy. As was said, I am the principal of PS 24 and have been for the last 11 years, believe it or not. Mr. Mango asked me to come here to talk about our experience with our addition at PS 24. And it basically changed our lives. So all the things that we heard from other speakers which were at our school, we had trailers, we were overcrowded, we had a very growing population. It got to the point that we had no special rooms anymore. Every room was taken up as a classroom. We no longer had a library. We no longer had a science lab. We no longer had art rooms. All our children were packed into the building. Our community kept asking for additional programs, and I could not give it to them because I had no place to put these programs. The CEC was so kind in agreeing to go ahead with our project. We opened in 2018. Without your approval and without the SCA, who worked hand in hand with the community, we would not have this beautiful addition that I'm going to show you. So rather than relying on quantitative data, as I usually do, this is going to be a slideshow of what our community asked for and what they got from the project. Okay, so so the first slide shows you on the left what the school looked like since 1930s. And on the other side of the screen is the building as it is now. It's an artist rendering, but it looks exactly like that. And if you had asked me 6 years ago whether that would have been possible, I could not imagine that from the humble beginnings that we had, and it was a beautiful building, that we would now have a modern, a state-of-the-art facility where all dreams of children and community can be met. The space was very, very tiny. I show you here what the arrows are is the new addition. The other part is the existing building. So you can see that the new addition wrapped around the other building. So it took a little bit of space, and it maximized the amount of space that the children had. You might not be able to see that, but where the arrow is pointing, we have a rooftop play yard, and there is still room, if you look on the bottom, for children to play as well. It's highly well designed, and it's really quite a beautiful building that gives opportunities to everyone that goes to that school. Okay, so this is our lobby. Welcome to our school, decorated for the holidays. Our original lobby was tiny. If we could fit 2 or 3 people in it at a time, it was a lot. Now we have a massive space you can't see, but to the right of the screen is our cafeteria, and you'll see it in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm going to show you classroom spaces. So this is our pre-K and kindergarten rooms. Along with the building, you get everything you can think of. They provide furniture, toys, books, any kind of supplies that you need, and the community works with the SEA to pick those things out. You are the designer, along with the SEA, who do whatever they can to make your vision, your community vision, come true. Before we had the addition, we didn't even have pre-K. We had no room for pre-K. We now have 4 pre-K rooms, all with bathrooms, all with lots of space and great spaces for the children to play. You see here what it looks like in COVID times. I guarantee this does not look like this when there isn't COVID. The children are working in groups. There are all centers set up, but I just kind of wanted to show you what it looked like nowadays. Okay, here's upper grade classrooms. You also can see how clean, modern, and beautiful the rooms are. We departmentalize in grades 3 through 5. So on the right, you see a math science room, and the children, even though they're sitting in COVID rows, they are engaging in great instruction, and they're enjoying their instruction. You get a Promethean board in every room. You can see them in the classrooms, and you also get desktops, Apple desktops or PCs, whatever you plan. You can see them in the very back where the gentleman is standing up, one of our scholars. You can see behind him there is a space where children can work on computers, and those are also furnished to you. Okay, this is the pride and joy of our school. This is our dance room, complete with bars, mirrors, sound system, beautiful wood floors. Before we had this building, As much as we wanted a dance teacher, there was no place to hold dance instruction. You see our dance teacher posing in the background. All children engage in dance instruction as part of their day. Okay, we're developing future ballerinas and dancers. It's wonderful. And you can see the beautiful windows. One of the things that we are very, very proud to have is lots of light in the building. There is windows in every room, big windows where children can be part of the outside as well. Okay. Here's our music room. Before we had our building addition, we were not able either to have music instruction. You can see the amount of instruments that have been supplied to us. We have violin instruction. You see the violins. We were given a piano. We also were given budgets to buy whatever instruments we want. You could decide what you wanted. It could be percussion. It could be anything that your community envisions as what you want your children to be to engage in as part of music instruction. Here's our art room, and yes, it has a kiln. This is the supply room. It is a bit messy now because of we're using it now as a classroom. It's so large. There is a kiln, and one of our 3 art teacher knows how to use it, and the children engage in creating ceramics. They engage in all types of mediums, and we have the ability to do so because we have the facilities that support that kind of instruction. What you see, I left it on the left, is the walkthrough that you will have with the SCA when your building opens as an inspection to look at what the building looks like and for you to give feedback on anything that needs to be still worked on. Okay. Our STEM lab. All right, we have a lot of stuff going on. You see the kids super engaged here. This is pre-COVID. You see the kids are working on workstations. We try to replicate what it would look like in like a Google-like job situation. So the kids are working in workstations. Underneath, they have dry erase boards where they create projects. They work cooperatively on iPads. They do coding. The teacher is an Apple trained teacher who is also Google trained, certified. The kids are learning how to be ready for jobs once they graduate, and certainly for their next step in middle schools and high schools. And we have 2 science labs. Now, this was the community's push. We were asked what we wanted. The community was very, very invested in the arts and the sciences, so we worked on having 2 science labs and a computer lab. It's really up to the community what vision they have for the school and what they would like to see in the school. And then the SEA works to see how they can make sure that the community gets what they want. Speech room. I thought this was really, really important because all children are being served. There's a whole station by the windows where children can be engaged in different technology, and there's plenty of room for all children to work with all supports they need. Before we had 1 speech teacher. Now, because of the space we have, we can house 3 speech teachers in our building, so more children can get the services that they need. Okay, common spaces. All right. This is our cafeteria. This is another one of our great prides in our school. On the left is an artist rendering, but I promise you it looks just like that. Round tables were purchased by the SEA to encourage students to eat in a community way. We don't use them right now because of COVID. They're all folded up. But it's wonderful to see children sitting down for a meal, talking to one another as they would at home over dinner time. So we're teaching children social, emotional, and behaviors while we give them a very happy way of eating. There is a beautiful sound system in the cafeteria, so children can listen to beautiful music. And we also have smart boards and TVs in the rooms, so we can also have community events here. Right here on the right, you see our guidance counselor working with 5th grade parents who are registering for middle school. So it's a huge common space that we can use, internet accessible, and it works in so many different ways to support our community. Here's our kitchen. Okay, I have threatened the kitchen to basically come in with an apron one day and help them cook, because it is a beautiful space. It's clean, it's beautiful, it has amazing equipment. Children have both hot and cold meals, not warmed up meals, but they actually cook the meals there. The refrigerators that you see are huge walked-in refrigerator and freezers. The space is so large that in the case of like a hurricane or emergency, our school could house anybody that needed food, shelter, while the emergency was going on. Okay. All new schools get art pieces. What happens is a committee is formed, and whatever you have for the vision of your school, you interview different artists who present the work to you, and as a committee, you select the artist that you feel is going to present the image of the school that you want. I've been at schools down by the harbor in Manhattan where the art piece was outside near the harbor. We interviewed several artists, and we wanted to capture how we support children in learning English and literacy, and how words are so important in our building. From a distance, it looks like a collage of some kind with different colors. But if you look closely, you can see that there are not only letters there, but there are words. There are 18 poems buried within here, so children can identify the different poems while they're eating and really be exposed to a print-rich environment, and also in a very aesthetically pleasing way. Again, common space we're super proud of is our Rooftop Playgrounds. It is all caged off. There's enough room up there for 2 classes to play. During COVID, we've had our children, we've set up tables for lunches and breakfast and have our children eat up there. It's a really nice place. It's also a nice place for classes to come if they wanted to sketch buildings. You can see Flushing, and you can see different areas of Queens from a bird's eye view, which gives perspective. Okay. And now health and safety, which is a huge, huge important piece now in the world today. You get state-of-the-art health and safety features in a new building. And a lot of this I can't really explain, I just know it's there. So we have state-of-the-art ventilation with HEPA filters. There is an amazing circulation in the new building. We have everything's air conditioned, very comfortable. There's fire rated rooms in case there's an emergency for children to escape to. And the whole building is protected with security cameras, state-of-the-art security cameras. The nurses suite is also designed to house more than one sick patient. You see the isolation room. There are 2 bathrooms there. There are 3 examining rooms, and you see that the nurse also has his own area where he welcomes his patients. Outside, where you see the door, there is a waiting room for children as well. It's almost like a little medical suite, and children are very, very safe and well taken care of in this area. Okay, you see here something that is very popular with both the children and the adults is our water bottle filling station, which is also super clean. Kids don't have to go to a fountain now to drink, but the water bottle refilling station keeps children's mouths away from each other and keeps everything clean. Now, that's a beautiful feature for a school. It keeps disease transmission to a minimum. Accessibility, we are a 100% accessible school. We have 2 passenger elevators, which you see in the light green. We also have a lift from the main entrance up the stairs to get to the auditorium and main office. You see that in the middle. And the last on the right, you see a picture of a lift that takes children onto the stage. So all children have access to the to whatever we offer in the school. Whatever theater programs we have, children in wheelchairs, children who have accessibility problems can participate because of what the SEA has provided to us in our new building addition. And that's it for me. You can hold off on questions or ask me now, depending on how Mr. Mango and the CEC would like to continue.
Am I muted? I'm on? Okay. Thank you, Principal Cassidy. I really have to say, I was on the CEC when you did the walkthrough with your elected officials and I was invited. I was so impressed by your school and the job that was done by SCA. I was so proud to be part of this district that I only wish that my kids could go to that school, or I wouldn't mind going back to elementary school what you have now. So very proud of you, very proud of what SCA did. And I just want the community to understand this is what realistically can happen, right? And your school, that was an addition. That was from an old school. So imagine a new school being built. Or, you know, I know we have Principal Alessi's here from 129 in College Point. They just completed a project there for an addition. So, you know, we don't have many projects in our district and we need the seats. So I just wanted the community to see that. Thank you once again. So what I want to do is I want to go now to the questions. If anyone has any questions regarding district planning, SCA, Principal Cassidy, I'll start with the CEC members, and then we'll go to the public that's here, and then we'll go to if there's any questions in the chat, okay? Different from our public comments. If there are any questions for any of our presenters, we'll entertain them now. If the public has any questions for our presenters, please put that in the chat as well. Thank you. Any CEC members have any questions, comments?
Good evening. I don't know District 25 that well. Where is Water's Edge control?
So does Mr. Goodman want to respond exactly where it is? It's in Bay Terrace, Bayside.
I know where it is. Thank you.
Sure. Good evening, and thank you for your question. It is located by Bay Terrace. I'm just going to quickly pull up the map again so folks can get a better sense. 1 second. So this is it. It is located south of Bay Terrace, close to the Cross Island Parkway.
I have to ask Mr. Goodman. Can you hear me?
I can. I didn't hear the question.
How far is the border from this location from District 26? Are you able to answer that?
Yes, it is actually located very close to the School District 26 border.
So this is similar to what we have at PS 130, no? Isn't that also a school that's near the border? Lewis and Flushing? No.
I'm actually not familiar.
Yeah.
So Arlene is here from both Community Board, and also she was on the school boards back then. So District 25 obtained 130 from District 26 many, many years ago. So it is geographically in District 26, but it is right up against the District 25. So that's where District 25 is. So it would be very similar to what you were talking about, where the Water's Edge building and school would be in District 25, but it would also be right up against District 26.
I can show a map if that's helpful.
Are there any other questions or comments from the CEC members? Maybe show the national map.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, Mr. Goodman's gonna show the map, correct?
So I can show the map.
Sure.
And hang on, wait, let me just share my screen for 1 sec. Sorry, give me a second. Here it is. Can you see this map? Okay, so you can see, I don't know if you can see my circle, but this is where 25Q130 is. You can see it's geographically located in 26, but right near the border. I believe the new school, I don't have it because it's not an actual school yet, but I believe it's right about here. Is that right, Ben? Do you see where my hand is?
Yes, approximately.
Around there. So if that's helpful.
It actually, though, I think it's a bit south of there.
South. Yeah, maybe, sorry. I think, no, you're right. I think it's like right around here.
Yeah, because there's 23rd Avenue cutting across.
Yes,
So
yes.
close to that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go back and share my screen as well, just to give.
I'll stop sharing mine. Okay.
So this here is a bit a zoomed in view. Again, it's the intersection of Water's Edge Drive and 24th Avenue.
So it's basically off of Bell Boulevard and 24th Avenue, that location, correct?
Correct. It is south of Bell Boulevard.
South of the, okay. Are there any questions from anybody in the public present here for either Mr. Goodman, Ms. Green, or Principal Cassidy? All right, Carly, how about, are there any questions in the chat for any of our presenters?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Sure. There, right?
Yes.
Do you need the microphone, Carly? You can take that. Shirley, can you pass that
Can you hear
microphone?
me, Ben? No, okay.
Take that. You have to press the bottom. Push the bottom. Okay. Yep.
36% of students, is it on? How do you know it's on? Yeah, but it doesn't say. How about now?
Now,
Okay. 36% of students in high school stay in District 25. Would it be better if they didn't commute so far for school? That means 64% of kids going out of the district. We need data of where these kids are going. That's why.
I can answer that.
hold on. Can you unmute?
No, I'm not.
Can I answer? So I can answer that. So something really important to know just in terms of zoning is there's a large majority, the northern part of our district, that although they are zoned for District 25 elementary and middle schools, they are zoned for District 26 high schools. So that is a large majority of many of our middle schools fall into that. So that is 194, some students in 194, most students in IS 25, most students in 185. So that number of students going to high schools, you need to take that into consideration. And then we're very proud of being a high performing district that many of our students also go to specialized high schools. So that's where you would see some discrepancies in the numbers between elementary and middle and high school.
I just want to know, this intended project, and Mr. Goodman, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not for a high school, correct? It's for an elementary school, I believe?
Correct. It's for an elementary school.
Sound issue here. Mr. Goodman, it is for an elementary school. It's intended, correct?
Correct. This is going to be designed for an elementary school.
Any other comments in the chat? Carly, go ahead.
Wouldn't it be better to leave out 2020 data because it will pull numbers lower than normal? That's for Giant.
Yeah, I can take that one. So as I said before, we're very, very well aware that COVID might have affected 2020 numbers. We don't want to leave them out because we do want to be transparent with our data, and I think people are interested. When we look at 3-year trends or 5-year trends, we will consider 2020 a blip and take that into account. These are just numbers we're sharing. We will make decisions in community with you based on reality. And reality is, let's see what happens with the enrollment.
One was just a comment saying that dancing is great for students to do. And the next question. Great facilities. Facilities are great, but also the programs are the most important thing. The Dallas Cowboys have the best modern stadium in the NFL. They haven't won a Super Bowl. I'm sorry. But they haven't won a Super Bowl in a while. The gifted and talented program should be expanded. Just saying, beautiful school, great job. Your students are so lucky. This is what every school building in the city should look like. And then another question was, what middle school would this new school be zoned for?
I can take that one as well. So a few things. If this school is approved, and it sounds like from my analysis of the data, this district needs it, and I'm hopeful it'll happen. But even if it does happen, the principal talked about how much planning goes into a school. SCA, I think it's like a 3 to maybe 5 year process. So let's keep in mind that it would, the school wouldn't open for, say, 3 to 5 years. We would do a lot of planning with the community in that time. But this is an elementary school, is likely planned as an elementary school. That does not change middle school zones. So wherever those students live now, unless we change something, they would still go to the middle school they're currently zoned for. Does that make sense?
Thank you, John.
The next question, who will be zoned for the, I guess it's the same, who will be zoned for the school at Waters Edge Drive? Will it be for the Bay Terrace, or will you be bringing in kids from other neighborhoods?
So I believe Superintendent.
So I can speak a little bit to that, and then Joe, you can maybe talk about some of the work that we did with 379. So I think it's important for the community to know that anytime we open a school, expand a school, any kind of engagement is community-based, right? And so what we want to say right away is that, I wanted the community to see the possibilities of what SBA can give to our students, and I believe that they deserve that. And I think that one of the things that is important to know is the discussion, and our leading community board was really part of 379 as well. We really had a conversation about the community needs, who should go there. We make recommendations to district planning. We work with enrollment, and it is a community discussion. So I think for those of you who know me and the work that we do together from my district office, is that this is really something, the reason that this can't necessarily be answered is because it is a community conversation. I believe that schools belong to the community, and the community should have a say in what happens. So any kind of zoning discussions happen with district planning and with the CEC, right? And then we do pull in members and parents from the community. So Joe, do you want to speak a little bit about what happened with 379?
Yeah, so this is something that the members of the CEC have to understand. This is part of the reason why we serve. This is one of the things that we actually have the ability to do. So when MS 379 was created, that's the middle school in College Point, where they took it from St. Fidelis. CEC was involved in the zoning of what students would be able to go to that school. We were involved with the elected officials and the community board also regarding the name of the school. So that's like real work that the CEC does. So the intended project at Water's Edge, SCA builds the school, but then the community takes on the other issues of who goes there, zoning and whatnot. And that's the experience I had serving on the CEC in the past with 379. And I thought it was an amazing process, and there was a lot of community input, and it was not done, without the contribution of the CEC as a whole.
Thanks. I can chime in if that's helpful. Really just want to echo everything Superintendent Domingo and Joe said. What I said before with community engagement and do we do things in partnership with the community, I mean it. And I think what they said backs it up. I myself have not done a rezoning in District 25. I think that was before my time. We did just do one in District 24, and it passed unanimously by the CEC. Parents are very, very happy because we talked to principals, we talked to the SLTs, we talked to the CEC, we drew a map, we took their feedback, we redrew a map, and now everyone's happy. Like we would do it because we want to in partnership with the community, but also the CEC is a voting board, so we kind of have to, right? We have to do it in a way that makes the community happy.
I also want to acknowledge the elected officials. Of course, we could not do most of the things without the support of our elected officials. And, that's something that this particular project, the city council's got to work on. I know Senator Liu's office is here as well. And it's a collaborative effort of all the interested parties and the community board as well. So, it's a group effort, and it's something that's not taken lightly, and the community needs to understand that. Do you have a comment, Sujin? You want to comment? Question. Okay, so Sujin's here from Senator Liu's office. She's got a question.
It's just a general question for anyone who can answer. But what is, first of all, SCA? And the school input in question of construction right now, I believe is PS 169, which is right by Bell Academy. They're share the same building. And I have some to understand.
So PS 169, I believe, the students that attend PS 169, I believe, are guaranteed seats at the Academy. And the Academy, as it is, like, the seats are very limited. So how is this expansion of 169 going to affect the admission into the Academy? And I also want to know what SCA is.
Sure. So I can answer what SCA is, and I take that for granted. I apologize. SCA stands for School Construction Authority. The SCA builds the schools. Okay, so that's what
They're private contractors?
it's a city. It's part of the DOE. Correct?
No,
Mr. Goodman, can you answer that question? I'm sorry. Mr. Goodman, can you answer the question?
Sure. So the School Construction Authority has a separate capital budget. Every year we produce an amendment to our 5-year capital plan as part of our planning process, both for new capacity projects, which is what the new addition to the 169 building, the addition we opened for 32, the addition we opened for 129 is funded by capacity, part of our 5-year capital plan, one of our funding streams. The other thing that we also do is capital improvement projects. Those are other projects meant to improve an existing school building, such as new windows, new roof, a playground upgrade, of things of that nature. So we do every year, as part of our amendment process and our commitment to community engagement, we do appear before all the CECs across the city to discuss district-specific projects, funding, and needs.
Goodman. So that's the answer to the first part of your question, and I'm going to have the superintendent answer the second part. Yeah.
Okay. I see, never you. So we're really excited about the expansion of 169 at Bell Academy because some of those seats are going to Bell Academy. And as you know, District 25 is a middle school choice district, which means that students from across the district can apply to any of our middle schools. And Bell Academy always has one of the biggest wait lists, so we're really excited to gain an additional 150 seats through that expansion. There is no discussion right now about changing the priority, so we know that as middle school choice, anyone can apply to Bell Academy in the district, but there is a priority option where if you are zoned for 169, you do have priority to get into Bell Academy over other students. We did say if that was a community discussion around a different school and wanted to address priority into Bell Academy, we would be willing to engage in that discussion with the community as part of the process.
The issue is for building Q169, not PS169. I think that's the problem. The building code versus the school.
Oh, yes, oh, so is that what you're asking? So Jim, right, the seats, some of those seats of 169 are also going to Bell Academy. They're not only going to 169. Thank you, Louis.
So Bell Academy and PS 169, they're co-located there. It's one building and it's two schools. It's the elementary and the middle school. They're in the same building. This project is going to expand school space for both schools. Okay, are there any other questions? Go ahead.
This is from school. This is from the SCA. What happened to all the projects that were separately funded directly by the schools before the pandemic? Like the auditorium renovation at junior high school 194 and the security system at PS 209.
So I just want to, I don't know if that's something that SCA took on. It might be a resolution A, A from the elected officials, but I'll ask superintendent to comment.
So I can check on 209, but I know the 194 is something that both myself and the school asked for the SEA to hold off on for a little while because we needed that space right now for social distancing at 194, but that is something that SEA is waiting to do as soon as some space opens up at 194 and we're able to not have to separate students as much. But so SEA did contact us over the summer. They are ready to begin the project.
I think that wants to make a comment, Mr. Goodman?
Yes, and just to add the other question on Q209, I will follow up and get back to the CEC tomorrow with the details on where that stands, but the pause has been lifted. So all the projects that were put on pause due to COVID are now moving along.
Arlene, did you want to say something? Question? You have a question or comment?
No, I have no question.
Okay, so we'll hold off on the comments. Okay, thank you. I think we have one more question in the chat for our presenters.
Question for the SCA again. Can you comment on why none of the improvement projects at our district schools that the CEC has submitted annually in the past 2 years were not picked to be done by the SCA? What was the last project? I'm sorry. What was the last project done picked from those submitted? Thanks.
So that I believe the question is the CEC prepares recommendations to SCA on some projects in our district. We don't have control over that, but that SCA takes on what they feel is necessary. I believe the question is regarding that. Are you able to answer that?
I can't answer it at this time because I don't have the list in front of me. I'm happy to check where things landed and get back to the CEC rather quickly. I would just say generally, we do look to fund projects that are health or safety to buildings so that if our building, when we go out to do our annual assessment survey, is ranked as urgent, some part of that building system or the building envelope we look to fund that first and then move on to other projects. I will check to see where things are with the CEC's priority list from last year.
The person who has that question, they can also reach out to me or the CEC and it's, let us know what the project is and we can look into it when we prepare our recommendation this coming year. Any other questions, Carla?
Who is in charge of construction projects?
So there's a couple of vice presidents at the School Construction Authority who are in charge of projects. There's a vice president for our construction management team, as well as a separate vice president for architecture and engineering. Architecture and engineering are the designers, the folks who go out and design our new school buildings, as well as capital improvement and reservoir projects. Additionally, the construction management is the on-site team managing the actual construction and our general contractors.
Any other questions, Carly? Okay, so there are no other questions. I thank our presenters, and once again, we really appreciate your willingness to come here this evening to present, and you did a great job, and we thank you. And we look forward to hopefully working with you. Thanks once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
I do want to let the public know we have the pleasure of Arlene Fleischman, who's here. She is a known former school board member, and she serves on the Community Board 7. And I would like for her to comment because she is on our speaking list, and I want to give her the microphone at this time.
Thank you. First, I have to make it very clear that whatever I say from my heart, and I am not speaking for Community Board 7, because we take votes on issues, and I'm not here to express their vote on any issue. But I will say that when I sit here, it's almost deja vu, because I started on the school board, and I'm going to quote myself, in 1977. My children went to PS 214 in first and second grade on a split section. That's how proud this district was. And we fought for years to have a new school built. And you know the first school that got built? 242. Because we had enough money for one new school, a large school. But wherever they had the space for it, it wasn't needed. At that time, you're not going to build a school in the north to bring all the children from the overcrowded schools in the south. So the money sat there until I asked our district manager, I said, can you find out if we could split the money? Because there was a piece of property on the corner of 137th Street, 31st Road. And they said, yes, we could. And that's how PS 242 got built. And its sister school, 244, was built with the rest of the money. And that school is off College Point in Franklin Avenue. That's the only two schools in the 27 years that I sat on this school board that ever got built in this district. And that's because we didn't fight hard enough. We need schools, whether it's in Bay Terrace or any place else, wherever they can find a piece of land and the school can be built there, fight for it. Because if you're going to lose it, you can't keep building additions to schools. And we know that the communities are changing. All the people moving into my co-op, young people are having children. And the schools are going to see that increase continually as time passes by. It's very important. I'm supporting this school there. I will say community school board, district board was split. You know, but I really feel, and I'm going to say it, I guarantee you that people are trying to fight the school, they're not people with children. They're probably the older generation of the community who don't want it across the street from them. I live right across the street from PS 242. And let me tell you, our property value went up, not down. The children going into the school, it's a delight when I look out my window and I see them every morning. This is the youth And this is what a community needs. So all I can do is encourage all of you, fight, get your neighbors and your friends and your other parents, because there's no reason for pre-Ks to be sitting in nursery schools. It's more effective when these children start in the school system. And if we had enough space, all these nursery schools wouldn't be opening, because they're getting an advantage in taking in the pre-Ks, because they get paid a lot of money for them. So all I can continue to say is fight for the school. Don't let them say no to the new school that they want to put up in. Thank you, and good luck to all.
Thank you, Arnie. So, look, the reason why we're having this meeting this evening, I think it's very important, because up until now, I've been hearing only negative comments about why a school should not go up at that location. And I happen to live down the block from that location. So I know there's a lot of opposition amongst the retired individuals that don't have children. They just don't want it in their backyard, is what my opinion is. My children are not going to get the benefit of the school, because by the time it's done, they're going to be in college, right? So, but I'm still 100% supportive of a new school. It may not be the best location, but we don't have many choices in our district. So I think, it's something that we really need to fight for as a community. The need is there, and you saw what is, what's capable of being built. And I think that only, like Arlene said, it's only going to increase the value of our property. We live in a district where many people want to live in our district because of our schools. We have one of the best school districts. We compete with District 26, and, but I think we're like probably better. Yeah. So, it's a great district, and I just think that we need to have state-of-the-art schools. We need the school space, and it's not fair to our children. Thank you. I will now take other comments. Is anyone on the public speaking list? Nobody. How about in the chat? Nobody? Okay. So at this time, I'm going to present. I'm sorry? There's a hand raised. Colleagues?
I don't see any hand raised. Oh, Marilyn.
Okay. Principal Alisi, I referred to you earlier. I don't want to exclude you. I'm so sorry. Are you willing to comment about your addition at College Point at 129?
Yes, I would just like to say a couple of things, if that's possible.
Absolutely.
I first of all thank Deborah Cassidy, because she showed many things from her school that are also in my new edition now. And our edition at PS 129 is the second edition. And even though it showed that we aren't quite at capacity yet, we're getting there. Every classroom is practically filled. And we're now lucky enough, as Deborah said, to finally have an art room and a science room and a music room and those areas, and a dance room just like hers with the beautiful mirrors and floors. And the children are really excited about being there. We also have an art gallery where it looks almost like a little museum outside of the art room. And there's a bench there that the children can sit there and just admire some of the artwork of students in the building. And I just think it was so important for our community to have that addition built. Unfortunately, it opened right when COVID opened as well, so we couldn't have much of a celebration at that time, but we are looking forward to that this year. And I just wanted to say that it's really important to give the children what they need.
Great. I want to give a shout out to our council member Paul Malone, also, who has, I'm not sure if he's here, but he's been advocating for the addition at the Water's Edge project. And these are his last few months in office, so I hope that, he is successful as we all hope. Are there any other comments? Thank you again. Are there any other comments or in the chat? Raise hands. Okay, so we're going to continue on with our superintendent's report. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and I really want to thank Joe and the CEC for allowing this presentation tonight. Really, I think it's important that the community really sees the access that we have been able to provide for our students through additions. And I agree with what Arlene is saying. I mean, she just said, and you heard Miss Alisi say this is her second addition to her school. Yeah.
She is the last principal, I say hello to her,
Yes.
that was appointed under our jurisdiction remaining in the district.
There you go, Marilyn. Did you hear what she said? She said you are the last principal appointed from the school board remaining in the district. So congratulations for that. She does give me a lot of advice and history of the district. So I'm really glad to be able to work with her. So thank you, Marilyn. All right. So I just wanted to kind of give a quick follow-up on some of the topics that Dr. D'Antona and I discussed and the progress of them across the past month. So, Louis, if you could just flip forward. One of the things that we did talk about was CRSE, and tonight I wanted to make that connection between the things that you're hearing around the New York City Department of Education instructional practices and District 25 priorities for the 21-22 school year. So as always, high expectations and rigorous instruction go back. High expectations and rigorous instruction are at the forefront of all of our work. Our first week of homecoming, which we were really excited about, and the most amazing thing for me was about how many of our school principals and teachers said that homecoming is something that they're going to do for every year moving forward. They loved it. The kids enjoyed it. Did you enjoy homecoming? Yeah, she was like, those are great. Just some amazing things happening across our schools, and I'm really glad to hear that principals love that. And we're going to continue to work through that with the welcoming and affirming school environments. And we know that students need to feel safe and loved and protected in order to learn. So we're really excited about that work. Inclusive curricula and assessment and ongoing and targeted professional learning communities that's happening across our district. So just wanted to let you know that we have already started in working with Dr. Maria Akimie on culturally responsive and sustaining education. It's around teachers really understanding themselves, and seeing themselves in classrooms and working with students around their communities and cultures, but then also understanding the needs of students through who they are in their communities and cultures. So at our DLT meeting this Tuesday, which is going to be live, and you can find also the recordings on our website. We're going to be going over some of the activities that Dr. Akimie did with our teachers and administrators today. This week and next, we're also starting our Apple training on rigorous tasks, but doing it through an equity lens where students are seeing themselves in their work. And Bank Street, where our early childhood mathematics programs are up and running, and we're really excited about that. That will be starting soon, and we're going to continue with our literacy work. This next couple of series of professional learning for teachers is going to focus on vocabulary acquisition, because that is what some of our assessment tools that we're using shows the need for us to address. So we're really excited to start that work. Okay, next. We're also really excited to talk about the Save for College program and the DOE's relationship with NYC Kids Rise. I had a meeting this week around this, and as part of the Juneteenth Economic Justice Plan, Mayor de Blasio announced the citywide expansion of the Save for College program, which originally began in District 30. It is going to be offered to all kindergarten students in District 25. It says starting September 2021, but for District 25, it's going to start in January. I'm going to start by saying that families can opt out of this program, but it is in partnership with our nonprofit partners, New York City Kids Rise. It is a free program, and which will provide incoming kindergarten students with New York City scholarship accounts equivalent to 529s including the first $100 deposit into each account, which will come from New York City Kids Rise. It also includes opportunities to earn additional rewards and access to community scholarships, as well as supporting financial education and college career readiness activities. This month, we will train our parent coordinators in working with families in this wonderful Save for College initiatives, and accounts will begin to be set up as early as January 2022. So we're really excited to be part of that program. We wanted to talk about, as we continue our work with CASEL and defining SEL, and as you know, our homecoming was part of that, but social emotional learning is a huge part of our education and our goals and objectives for this school year. SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply knowledge and skills and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. So we're really excited to continue our work with SEL this year as well. And MTSS, I know that we had mentioned MTSS, which is a multi-tiered system of supports. We've gone through this across last year, and we are going to continue our work this year. We are addressing this in our goals. As you know, it does include Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 supports, but it also does include extensions for our accelerated learners. It is layered in professional development and our SEL and curriculum design. And it is also going to be connected to our screeners and aligned to our core instruction and education plan. So for families, and I know we went over this last month, but I also wanted to address this month. For K-2, our ELA screeners are Acadians, and 3 to 8 is iReady, and math is iReady, and we are implementing an SEL student survey in grades 3 to 5 and 6 to 8 that models panorama education, but it is really a Google survey that was designed by Dr. D'Antona and principals and teachers around supporting students' social emotional health and the ways that we can use that to improve our planning and instruction that does incorporate SEL. So we're really excited about that work as well. Something that I know that we had mentioned as part of our goals is our relationship with Civics for All. Some of our schools have already participated in Civics for All, 499 being one of them. But Civics for All really does support civic knowledge for our students, which is an understanding of government structures, government process, and relevant social studies knowledge and concepts, along with history, and the ways that history affects today's government and society, which we know is so important for our students. Also, civic skills, abilities that allow students to engage in the democratic process through student voice and in an active and informed way, such as critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And civic dispositions, which attitudes that are important in democracy, such as a sense of civic duty and concern for the welfare of people, as well as for one's country and community. So we're really excited to partner with Civics for All, that professional learning for our teachers, and the implementation of those programs will start this month as well. And all of our students who are participating in Civics for All will engage in social action projects, which we are really excited to present to the community this year. One of the things that I wanted to show you is that here is around how civics-related competencies engage and are aligned to the CASEL framework. So our SEL and our civics work are combined together. It's about developing interests and a sense of purpose, identifying personal and cultural and linguistic assets, identifying diverse social norms, including unjust ones, understanding influences of organizations and systems of behavior, practicing teamwork, collaborative problem solving, demonstrating personal and collective agency and managing one's emotions, and learning how to make a reasoned judgment after analyzing information, data, and facts. And you know that we're really good at that as a district, and Dr. D'Antona is really excited to lead that work with our teachers and leaders for implementation in the school. So we're really excited that all of these things come together in a meaningful way so our students really see the connections. So I know that you have all heard a lot about diversity and equity and access. Last month, we spoke to you about our vision and mission statements around for many groups, one community, recognizing and appreciating and valuing the diversity of what is District 25. Yes. So, around empowering learners, embracing differences, and providing equitable access and opportunities for all. So we just wanted to talk about the pathway that we have gone through in exploring equity and diversity and access across District 25. So we started this work back in 2016 and 17, where we did a pilot training program for our L and special education teachers and our SIT teams around disproportionate referral rates that we saw in data that were happening between our Hispanic multilingual learners. In 2017 and 18, myself and Dr. D'Antona began disproportionality training for building leaders, guidance counselors, instructional leadership teams to address disproportionate suspension and referral rates and middle school regions access for all, which is something that we're really proud of, the expansion of the ability for any student that would like to take the regions has the ability to do that across our schools. From 2018 to 2020, implicit bias training was instituted for all building leaders, teachers, guidance counselors, and parent coordinators in the district. And in 2019 and 20, our district and our equity teams in incubator schools worked with Dr. Edward Fergus to explore solving disproportionality and achieving equity using data to change hearts and minds. 2019 to present. So all district schools have participated in culturally responsive and sustaining education training with Dr. Maria Quinay. This professional learning series engages participants in a step-by-step process of becoming culturally responsive educators who have the skill and capacity to create culturally responsive lessons in classrooms. School teams work together to reflect on their racial and cultural identities, to affirm and sustain student identities in their classroom, which we know is so important. They will identify through an equity audit strengths and areas of growth in their pursuits of racial and cultural equity within their schools. School teams will use the Aguirre cultural framework to create culturally responsive lessons and units as exemplars for their school teams, and building leaders also work with Dr. Akinye to explore culturally responsive school systems and leadership practices. And then 2020 and 21, district and equity teams engaged with the Office of Equity and Access to revisit district and school mission and vision statements, including to be inclusive of an equity lens. Redesigned statements were presented to communities, including CEC, DLT, and the school's SLTs and communities. Many of our schools are continuing to engage in this work for this year as well. And then for 2021 and 22, all schools will be engaging in school-based training through equity visits. The school-based instructional leadership and equity teams will unpack data and surface important questions related to the integration of equity, diversity, and instruction. Using equity visits, a new approach to supporting equity-focused school and district leadership. All the authors are there. As a resource, schools will select an equity-focused design and problem of practice and engage in school walkthroughs to assess the instructional core through their selected equity focus and problem of practice. Any questions around that work? I know that one came up in the chat. And so Dr. D'Antona, maybe you can take this. The question is regarding the SEL survey, what types of questions are children in middle school asked?
So,
It's Dr. D'Antona designed it.
So, looking at where,
Good
good evening, everyone. So the SEL survey covers the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning, which involves social awareness, self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, and oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the 5th one off the top of my head right now. But the 5 core competencies, it also includes things around sense of belonging and connections to culture and diversity. So those are the pretty much primarily the elements that it engages in. And it takes into account two different assessments. One from the panorama, which is something that is known by council, as well as the WashU School District. Those are the two areas that the questions will pull from.
Yeah, so I'll give you just an example, and whoever had asked that can always feel free to call our office tomorrow. We can engage with them more, or they can speak to their schools, because all of the schools have access to some of the questions. One of the questions that Dr. D'Antona and I were looking over today is, one thing I wish my teacher knew about me was. Right, so some of them are multiple choice questions, like, you know, where they have to answer level 1 through 5, but some of them are information-based questions that were really powerful, right? Some students said, you know, I wish my teacher knew how grateful I am to be back in school. Some students said, I wish my teacher knew how hard I work every night when I come home from school, you know, and I think that's important information that we as teachers need. And educators need to see how students are really feeling about what they feel when they're in school. It's a huge part of what it comes back to.
Yeah, just to give a little bit more context. I didn't give enough context.
I knew he was gonna do that.
So just a couple of things, just more contextual. Ask children if they are in a bad mood, are they able to pull themselves out of that bad mood to make themselves feel a little bit better? Do they know when they're struggling and they're angry or sad? Can they kind of name that and be able to bring themselves back to a place of understanding? Do they know and see when other children are upset and they know how to support both their peers? So it's questions along those lines, so we can get an idea of what skills our children are struggling with, so that we can support them moving forward.
Okay, and the last slide is information for our district. You know, we are still engaging in weekly testing. And although we can't wait for the day to say that we don't have to make COVID part of our everyday practices, that COVID is still, happening in our schools, I will tell you that both myself, Dr. D'Antona, Lewis, we did safety walkthroughs with all of our schools to make sure that they had all safety regulations, that they're adhering to the social distancing guidelines, that they have enough PPE. If there's ways that we can support them, schools who needed extra furniture, we got it for them. The DOE has been really supportive, and facilities has been, and as well as the SEA has been really supportive in getting us what we need. So we do have partial classroom closures, some whole classroom closures, and we will continue to monitor this work. And our principals are really attentive to making sure that they are reporting COVID cases that are reported to them. So that's my report.
Thank you, Superintendent. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, we'll get to the chat. Any CEC members have any questions for the Superintendent Daniel? Okay, look at the chat, Carla.
Question regarding classroom closures. Why are some classroom closures still happening when it's a child that was diagnosed with COVID-19? Why is it a full classroom closure?
So those, what we do is we report those to the situation room and we get guidance from them. So a principal of a particular school may be able to answer that or ask follow-up questions to the situation room for families, but we don't make determinations as educators as to partial or full classroom closures.
But what is happening? Is it morning breakfast?
I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I heard her. She's saying what is happening is at morning breakfast. That is really a conversation at the school level. I can't really answer that. They're all different reasons.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, members of the public. Is there any report back on any of our subcommittee? Mr. Chow, do you have any report back on any news on?
I'm gonna wait for us to have a.
Okay. Is there any other item of new business to discuss for our calendar meeting? Okay, so if there's no other item of new business, I'll entertain any motions to adjourn our calendar meeting before we start our business meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Anne Marie Knable made the motion to adjourn, and Michelle Frederick seconded the motion. The meeting is now concluded. I thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you to all our presenters, all our commentators, and public that came here today, either virtually or in person. We truly appreciate you, and we wish you a good month, and we will see you next month. We'll start the business meeting in about 3 minutes. Correct? Yes. Thank you, Louis. I appreciate, Louis, Dr. Mike, and Esther, thank you for your collaboration with Carly and facilitating this hybrid style of meeting. I know there were a couple of comments in the chat. I don't think they were able to see us because the camera's distant from, we're not close up. I hope everybody was able to hear us. There were some comments, but I thought it was loud and clear. I think it worked out well. We decided at our last meeting how we were going to operate. Unless there's any motion, I think we'll continue to operate that well. Unfortunately, our FACE representative, Juliana, is not here today. So if there's any questions, regarding procedure, we can send her email. This is our business meeting. We need to take the roll call and then approve the minutes from our August meeting. Yes.
Joseph D. Benedetto.
Present.
Wing Yu. Present. Anne Marie Knable.
Present.
Joseph Chow.
Present.
Sung Young Lee. Present. Russian Speaker is asked Michelle Frederick. Present. And Catherine Patrick. Present.
So Carly, you have the minutes from our August meeting, right?
Business part.
The business part, we have to vote on approving those minutes. Are there minutes from our special meeting? We just voted on that, right? So, okay, so let's review the minutes from our August meeting, and I'll entertain any motions to approve. Okay, Michelle made the motion, and Wendy is the second of the motion. Perfect.
I have a question.
So, yeah, Emery has a question.
So, wasn't Rosh need to be sent a letter for missed absences as well?
So this was from our August meeting, if you recall.
Oh, okay, got it.
September, we did not have a quorum, and we could not vote on any motions, right?
Okay, so
So, as of August, Pamela's absence was unexcused. And I believe September.
right, but then
July,
Binyam would only had one excuse at that point. One excuse, one unexcused, so why would he get a letter at that point?
So I don't believe that is July.
Bingham only had two.
He had two unexcused absences.
So August, September 20th, I sent
Right,
out
but this is the August minutes.
This is for August, correct? So
August, we said that if he was absent, he was going to
we
send the letter.
voted in August that his July, the first meeting,
Right.
his absence was excusable.
Right.
He said he couldn't appear because of work. Then he never contacted anyone regarding the August meeting about whether he was coming or not, no excuses. So
Right.
we voted that his absence was not excusable in August. So
Okay, so it's just if one
so
excuse.
you're looking at the wording of the language, right, of
I'm
the,
sorry.
so the council voted that for July, Bianchi's absence was excusable. Pamela Altamarino's absence was unexcused. And then we voted for the August meeting that in August, Bianchi's absence was unexcusable, as was Pamela's and Rushton's.
Right, so I'm just saying by this, Rashmi and Binyam are in the same category because they're both.
Back in August, Young and Pamela Altamirano, those were two unexcused absences.
Opinion was one in August.
I'm sorry, that's right, okay.
That's why I'm asking, just to make it correct on the record.
August, September, and now this is.
Right,
Okay,
but this
so
is,
this is August,
this is August
these are
minutes.
August minutes, so you have to take out reference to Young in being unexcused.
that would be in the
There's
September
no letter,
minutes.
that would be for September, this is,
The absences just say they're excused or unexcused. I would write that in any.
Right, but it says a letter was
so
sent
it
to
says
him, so by
Beyond
that,
and Pamela Altamirano on the last paragraph 4, the last sentence.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm looking at.
number 4.
Oh, no, I'm looking at the business account.
It says Beyond and Pamela Altamirano will be sent a letter regarding missed absences. So that's not accurate. Only Pamela Altamirano was
At
sent
that
a
point.
letter in August. So you need to take out any reference to Beyond being served a letter back in August. So you have to take out
But
Beyond.
Pamela and Beyond were not, neither one of them both letters were sent in August. They were both sent in September.
I understand, but this is referring to the August
Right.
minutes. So you have to take reference about Beyond getting any letter.
Okay.
So other than that, the minutes are hereby approved, correct?
Yes.
So I don't know, did you present September minutes? We couldn't vote on because we didn't have a quorum present for September. We can look at the minutes. I think our bylaws provide that if a member is unexcusedly absent, that he or she's going to get the warning letter. And so Beyond did not appear, did not have an excusable absence, so he was sent the warning letter in September.
Right, as was Rashmi should have been as well.
Rashmi's absence
Was
was
2.
excusable, same thing.
Hers,
And then
right,
Pamela Altamirano had the third unexcused absence, and we took it on our special meeting in September. Do you have the date, Carly? Because I don't recall.
27.
On September 27th, we had a special meeting. We spoke about how we were going to conduct business, and we voted on it. And we also spoke about Pamela Altamirano being voted out of the CEC for non-appearance. So we really need to look, and I think we need to have those minutes transcribed so we could approve them. So if you don't have them, we'll take it on in November. But we need to transcribe what happened during our special meeting on September 27th. Right?
right, and this,
So how you'll prepare that, we'll vote on September, November, if you don't mind. So, we definitely voted that, Pamela Altamirano was out. Today is another meeting, and I have not, so I understand that Rashmi had called Carly and said that she had a business, work-related issue that she was not able to attend this evening. So that is an excused absence. Beyond did not contact Carly, correct, Carly?
No.
And I have not received any correspondence email from Beyond. This is his third unexcused absence. If there are any motions to remove him from the council, I'll entertain the motion right now.
motion to remove.
Okay, so,
Second.
Michelle moved to, remove, and
I
Anne Marie
second.
seconds the motion. So why don't we, and we do have a quorum
Yeah, we have
present,
quorum.
we can take, we need to, have 6 members decide, and if it's voted, then Mr. Beyond is out of the council. Carly, can you go through the roll call vote?
Joseph Di Benedetto,
Agree to remove.
when you agree to remove. Anne Marie Cunningham,
Agree to remove.
Joseph Chow,
This is very bad, but I agree to move it.
Samuel Lee, agree to remove. And Michelle Parker, agree to remove.
So it's voted 6 votes, the quorum, and all members present have decided that and voted that Beyond Im's absence is unexcusable. He's got 3 unexcused absences. We need to conduct business as the CEC. He is now officially off of our CEC. We now have another opening that makes 2, correct? 2 openings. So Carly, I know you sent out the notice of the 1 opening. You can now send the notice to the community that we have 2 openings. I'm not sure if you got any applicants. I know someone
I
had
have one.
a question whether we were meeting in person or not, but was that officially submitted, that application?
No, I sent out the application to one person that requested it, other than that.
But we didn't get anything back as of
I
yet.
just sent it yesterday.
Okay, so can I ask the district office, if they don't mind, maybe, Esther, to send out?
That was sent out as soon as I got it from Carly.
I appreciate it, but now we have another opening, so.
Yeah, as soon as she sends it, I'll send it out.
Thank you, Esther. And I don't, so there's nothing else to discuss regarding unexcused absence, because Rashmi's non-appearance is excused, right? Okay, is there any, so I don't know, do you want to report back or discuss anything on the special subcommittee? Not right now, okay? So I just want to remind you that if you want to make any progress on that, you need to call a special subcommittee meeting, and those who are on the subcommittee, otherwise we're not going to make progress on it, right? Is there any other item of new business that we'd like to discuss? I know that Wendy had discussed the after-school programs. I don't know if we want to put that on our agenda. We want to say that? We're not going to discuss it during the calendar meeting, but if we want to put it on the agenda for next month, yeah. You want to speak about it, Wendy, or? Microphone here. Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Superintendent Domingo. She sent me a list of the free after-school programs, the affordable after-school program I had brought up at our last meeting. And from my own research, I could only find 6 free programs in District 25, but there's more than that. There are 11 free programs in the elementary school level in District 25, and there are many paid programs in the district. So, Superintendent Mango's and we know that the difference here is free versus fee, and we're trying to come up with ways to give families more available affordable programs, and that will be we'll have to discuss further.
So yeah, I think and thank you, Lindsay, because I think that's important. I know Michelle. I think the important piece to know that I didn't include in the email. It's okay, I can yell. That I didn't include in the email to you is that all middle schools have free programs. So all the middle schools have the programs. But what Michelle was talking about is twofold too, which is she was saying we got to make sure the kids go to them, because a lot of times the middle school kids aren't fully attending, right? And you have one in your school, correct?
I do. We're middle school, high school.
Yeah, and I know that I had met with your CBO and I asked for their attendance, and it was pretty low, you know.
Right.
And that's 2 schools in one building. So I know that Michelle was also talking about how we can work with CBOs to make sure that the kids aren't on the streets, right? Like if they have these opportunities, what are the CBOs in our middle schools offering as well? So I think, Carly, one of the things that I think the CEC really does want to talk to is like DYCD and those the people that run community-based organizations, because when you're saying 2 things. First, she wants to make sure all schools have access to affordable, if it's not reason, like maybe, but also like more access to free.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, at the middle school and high school level, so it's optional for students to attend, right?
It's optional for ours too, yeah. They don't have to.
I think at all grade levels, it's optional.
Right.
But I think the
No, I mean,
demand,
I guess,
the demand is probably more for the elementary school, because they don't use it at the middle schools, right? So that would be.
But I think the purpose for the middle schools is kind of what
Keep them
Michelle was
right,
saying,
exactly.
right? Like if there are kids that are walking out of school and they're on, you know, hanging out in the park on the streets and not doing the right thing, so why not offer them rigorous programs, you know, fun, exciting, and, you know, rigorous programs in the middle school to make sure they go, right?
That's a great point. Just one before you, are we still on publicly? Because I see signing out. I think are we on still?
Yeah, we're on.
Okay,
It's just that you don't have any more presentations.
understood. Okay, sorry.
If I may ask you a question, do I have weekends in District 25?
We do,
Weekend takes attendance, you don't only 4 weeks,
yes.
4 days a week, on
Yes.
Friday.
Deacons are very successful programs.
You know, just the companies that keep going.
Correct. I think Wendy's really speaking more of the elementary schools, but I think. Yeah.
But I think if we tie in the middle school and make it more, you know, that the kids that go to the middle school want to be there, I think that's something that.
Yeah, I think what Wendy is bringing up is definitely a need in our district, is for elementary schools to have access to free and affordable after-school programs for us. And even the ones that do have them, they have limited seats.
Are we able to put it on the agenda for, do we have someone that can come and speak? You'll look into that.
I'll
So
ask Eloise, because I don't have Juliana because she's still out.
Got it. So you'll look into that. So I do know that we have to have the special needs meeting by November. And I did speak, who's the person that we were speaking to?
He's gonna have
Police
somebody.
is gonna be here in November. We were gonna do it this evening, but I figured it's gonna be way too long. So I hope you don't mind that.
No, that's fine.
We're going to November.
I know it's gonna happen.
So that is on our agenda, and we will add, if we can, the after-school programs, which will cover November.
Yeah.
Right? Is there anything else supposed to happen in November? Okay. And then we'll have some report backs and whatever. Is there any other item of new business that anyone would like to discuss?
I see 3 beautiful children, their patients wearing in by the second.
I commented to Ms. Frederick, I said, you have remarkable kids. They sat through.
So quiet.
So calmly, I wish my kids that are much older would sit down.
Wouldn't happen.
It was texting me, great job. So.
I know some other correction officers, but children.
Yes. That says a lot.
They know the discipline.
Is there any?
We're bribed.
There's nothing else to discuss. I'll entertain any motions to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting is concluded. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And moving forward, if any community members have any questions about the new school, just, you can refer them to me.
Yeah, I think that's something you guys want to look at. Yeah.